Everyone, it's Sarah from Sarah Go Nutrition here, and this week we're talking all about gut health. So the gut is not like Las Vegas is one of my favourite sayings ever, which is coined by Alessio Fasano, who has done a lot of research into the gut microbiome and leaky gut. So the full saying is the gut is not like Las Vegas. What happens in the gut does not stay in the gut. And you might be wondering, if you're new here, why am I talking about gut health when hormones are normally my thing? And no, I haven't changed what I love, what I want to talk about. It's because our gut terrain is so important for happy hormones, because quite simply, the health of our gut affects everything else in the body, especially our hormones. So let me explain why. Firstly, gut health is really important for nutrient absorption. So every single process in the body requires nutrients to function properly, including the breakdown and utilisation of hormones. So we get those nutrients from our foods, so we need to break down that food sufficiently and it needs to be absorbed. If digestion is inadequate or the absorption is affected, this will have a knock-on impact on our hormones. Number 2, hormone metabolism. So certain hormones, including our thyroid hormones, are metabolized in the gut, meaning they're converted into the active form. Other hormones such as estrogen are bound up and then it's eliminated via the gut once the liver has done their job. So the gut environment can directly affect the hormone balance. And remember, our hormones function much like an orchestra does, so cueing off from one another. So any imbalances can have a knock-on impact on all of our hormones, not just that one. Number 3, it can increase cortisol levels. So gut issues can often cause inflammation, or an imbalance in gut bacteria can raise our cortisol, our stress levels in the body. And this creates a horrible vicious cycle, because as cortisol contributes to suppressing the digestive function. So actually gut issues will cause cortisol, but cortisol will suppress digestive function, causing more digestive issues. So it's a really horrible cycle. The next one is leaky gut. So this is where the cells of our gut open up more than they should, which allows larger particles such as food and toxins, bacteria and pathogens to reach the bloodstream. This can trigger the immune system and contributes to inflammation in the body. And inflammation, you guessed it, negatively impacts our hormones and can also cause the immune system to incorrectly attack the body. So this is what happens in autoimmune conditions. So things like autoimmune thyroid conditions can be driven from leaky gut. A slow gut transit, so a sluggish gut, or if you suffer from constipation, can mean that hormones that have been detoxified by the liver sit around longer than they should, which causes them to be reabsorbed. This messes with the lovely, harmonious hormone melody and can cause estrogen dominance, which is associated with things like endometriosis, fibroids, breast tenderness, and heavy and painful periods. And the last one, it can also affect serotonin production. So around 95% of this happy hormone is produced in the gut by our gut bacteria. If your serotonin production is off, then this can lead us to crave more carbohydrates, which help to actually boost that serotonin. Often this can lead us to eating more sugar, refined and processed carbs because we have those cravings, and most of us are craving a chocolate bar, not necessarily a bowl of brown rice. And actually eating more sugar and refined carbohydrates negatively impacts our gut bacteria. So another horrible vicious cycle. So what are the signs of an unhealthy gut? So the gut runs from our mouth all the way down to our bottom. So symptoms can be really wide-ranging. So they can include things like constipation, diarrhea, bloating tends to be the most common ones. Also things like cramps, gas, heartburn, and acid reflux. And because what happens in the gut doesn't stay in the gut, remember, symptoms can be systemic. And it can include anything from headaches, skin issues, so eczema, acne, fatigue, brain fog, sugar cravings, weight issues, mood issues as well, and much, much more. And also hormonal imbalances, so PMS, heavy painful periods, fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS, all suggest that the gut needs to be looked at. So potentially you've ticked off a few of those symptoms or a lot of those symptoms. So where to start healing the gut and giving it some love? So the best way that I found to heal the gut is top down, because that is how everything should move through, right? We eat food in our mouth and it comes out the other end, or it should all move downwards. Nothing should come up, but we won't go there today. So what can we do to start with? Well, start by engaging the brain. I say digestion starts in the mouth, but technically it actually starts in the brain. So engaging the brain when we're eating the food really triggers the rest of the digestive system into action. So actually it helps, if I sit here and describe the most juiciest steak, that is full of black pepper on the top and lovely rich béarnaise sauce, I can feel saliva come in my mouth, and vegetarians, maybe vegans, vegetarians, maybe not. But as soon as you start thinking about food, you notice saliva come. It's the same for your stomach acid, it's the same for your enzymes, which we'll get onto in a minute. So actually engaging the brain is really, really important. Too often we are eating whilst we're doing something else, so maybe looking at our phone, taking bites while we're working, or eating on the run. And this first step really sets up the entire digestive tract for either success or failure. Maybe not quite that dramatic, but hopefully you get the message, engage the brain. Next thing we can do is chewing. So chewing sounds so basic, but actually the mouth is the best stage to engage physical digestion, so actually physically breaking down the food with our teeth. This step really is not utilised enough, which can often leave undigested larger food particles, which can cause problems further down. We move on to our stomach. What can we do there? So a lot of us suffer with heartburn or acid reflux, and that's often thought to be due to too much stomach acid. Actually, it is quite the opposite, and the majority of cases of heartburn and acid reflux are caused by too little acid. So encouraging good stomach acid production through using things like lemon juice, so maybe squeezing it over your meals, or sipping on diluted apple cider vinegar can really encourage that stomach acid to come. If you are going to be doing this regularly, just watch the enamel on your teeth, because actually the acid can start to break that down. So if you are drinking things like apple cider vinegar, maybe consider doing it through a straw. The next thing we want to look at is supporting the enzymes that the pancreas releases and are released into the small intestine. So these enzymes help to chemically break down our food, and enzymes are found in things like pineapple and papaya are the two main foods. So actually getting those in before you eat your meals can be a really nice way to add some more enzymatic action to your breakdown. The next thing we can do is to really work on healing the gut, so boil those bones. So bone broth is rich in something called glutamine, which is an amino acid, and it really helps for healing the gut lining, and is also an absolute powerhouse for calming down inflammation in the gut. So get your bone broth in daily. We really also want to support bile, which comes from the gallbladder and liver, and bile is really important for breaking down our fats, and also as well as breaking down those fats so we can absorb the fat-soluble vitamins, our A, D, E, and K. So bitter foods is a great way to do this. So anything that tastes bitter counts, but if you're struggling with maybe what you think might be a good thing to add, having a little sort of pre-salad of things like watercress, rocket, maybe some radish in there, maybe some dandelion greens, some citrus peel, and squeeze a lemon juice to get that apple in, is going to get that acid in, it's going to be a really lovely way to stimulate digestion. The next thing we want to do is we want to harness the power of fermented foods. So fermented foods are rich in probiotics, which are the good bacteria that live in our large intestine. So when thinking about fermented foods, think about all the K's. So you've got kimchi, you've got kefir, you've got kombucha, and you've got kraut or sauerkraut. Live yogurt and non-processed sourdough also count too, but just watch if you are sensitive to gluten or dairy. And I will say that actually sourdough, whilst it is fermented and contains good bacteria, the gluten in it can also be quite harsh on the gut. So maybe knock that one out and just focus on the K's. Next thing we can do is keep hydrated. So we are mostly water, so actually it makes sense that we want to keep hydrated. Regular water intake also helps to keep everything moving through the bowel nicely. It can also help to sort of moisten the stool and create a nice sausage shape. As gross as that sounds, it is very helpful. And the last thing we can do, if you've tried any of these things or you just can't really get to the bottom of what's going on, get tested. So understand what is exactly going on in your gut. So using comprehensive stool analysis to understand what is your breakdown of food like, what bacteria do you have there, do you have any yeast, do you have any parasites. It's a really, really, really valuable way to understand your gut terrain and what you need to do to start looking at improving your gut health. If that is you and you think you could benefit from gut testing, please reach out to learn more.